What's up, my fellow parents? Hey, this podcast does not attract just any parent. This podcast attracts good parents. Parents like you, parents who really care about their kids, their morals, their integrity, their sexuality, their romances, what they look at, how they respond. We're here because of a lot of reasons. I mean, we love our freaking kids. We love them so much. And some of us have been hurt by an X-rated world. Hurt in how we were raised in it, choices we've made, and some of us haven't. Some of us made really good choices. You know, you were raised and you made good, healthy choices in an X-rated world full of temptations. There's lots of reasons that brings parents to a podcast entitled "Raising G-Rated Kids in an X-Rated World." Jordan, it's an edgy title.
I mean, even if you made the best choices, Sean, I'm sure you've seen what those bad choices have done to others, which maybe helped you make the right choices, right?
Yeah, it's good. That's wise.
I mean, we try to make the best choices we can. But the reality is it's hard, man. This world is so X-rated. There's so much of it around. Like you can't get around it. You can't hide from it. It's going to hit you no matter what. You take a step outside, it's going to hit you.
Literally, like 1 minute before we got on here to make this podcast, I was hit with it. I found out that one of my daughters who was taking lessons with this, her horse trainer, for many years. So this horse trainer is like young, 19, 20, and a huge part of my teenage daughter's lives. We just found out a couple minutes ago that this horse trainer has been cussing at her and cussing her out. Now they broke up.
What?
They broke up. She broke off from her like a while ago, like a year ago. She just casually told us before I made a podcast about raising a kid in an X-rated world. Yeah, she used to cuss at me and swear at me sometimes, and then I would cry. And I'm like, this is it. This is like really. I was like, it's like you feel betrayed. You feel shocked. I don't think any adult should be swearing at children. I don't care if you're a football coach, you're a teacher. You shouldn't swear at children, especially other people's children, right?
Yeah. I mean, choice of words are so important. You can get that same image across that you're trying to relay with different word usage. And ultimately, some of the best teachers in the world just use strong, easy to understand language instead of dropping F-bombs or cursing someone out or telling them they're, X, Y, or Z.
So, yeah, let me ask you here. I'm going to ask you, when you think of X-rated, what do you think of it? I just want to give a shout out to a famous teacher named Doug Fields who came up with this title many years ago, Raising G-Rated Kids in an X-Rated World. And many people have stolen it. And I'm going to steal a couple of his teachings here today. So what do you think of when you think of X-rated? X-rated.
I mean, obviously your mind goes straight to like sexually explicit. You could go to, language, as we just talked about. You could go to, not necessarily, I guess attire would be part of it, like
clothing.
We are showing more skin these days than we used to historically.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes was from a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It was one of the latest ones.
I love when you drop movie quotes.
It sets its stage back in the older days, right, where they're sailing all this, and the main character at the time, it wasn't Jack Sparrow, someone else. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I got to see her ankles," and he got all excited. Right?
So funny.
I mean, so funny. It's like I saw her
changed.
ankles. Times have changed
so much. Right. I think about pornography. I think about sex and unprotected sex. I think about sexting. I think about that, and that's so bad. And I also think about what my generation. We're the first generation to grow up with internet. And so therefore, we are the first generation to grow up with internet pornography. Furthermore, internet pornography business is huge. When I say huge, think about one of the busiest businesses in the entire world is called the NFL, the National Football League. And if you combine another huge business, the NBA, with the NFL, with the hockey, the NHL, and then the Major League Baseball, you combine all their money, and the pornography business makes more money than those four huge sports conglomerates. How crazy is that?
Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
I looked at a statistic I have it pulled up. It says in 2016, you had 91 billion pornographic videos that were watched on just one X-rated
Just
website.
one.
Just one.
Right.
And for the first time in history, we have this sexually explicit content that can be hand-delivered to our phones. Right? Before, you had magazines, even before, you know what I mean? You had drawings before that. And then you had the computer and television, and now it's right on our phones.
And that stat regarding the financial, gain that the pornography industry makes, that was actually made before OnlyFans took off. I don't really know much about OnlyFans, but I know that, tons and tons of people are making millions and millions of dollars. So now they have to be making more money in the pornography industry, because before, pornography was just free online internet. And now with OnlyFans, people and all these subscriptions, people are making lots of money. One of the things I think about is that when I was growing up, if I wanted to listen to a tape that had a label on it and it had the explicit label, if I went into a Tower Records, I couldn't purchase the tape.
Right.
Because it was illegal.
Right.
Because what happened in the 80s, a Floridian-based rap group called Two Live Crew came out with this album called As Sexy As They Want to Be, or no, As Nasty As They Want to Be, excuse me. And for the first time ever, a commercial album was made where the artists were really glorifying sexual body parts, different sexual things, prostitution, drug use. And the American government and American families freaked out. And they came up with this label. And actually, some people actually went to jail and got fined for selling that to little middle school kids, because I tried to go in there and tried to get it, and they wouldn't sell it because it was so much curiosity. And now fast forward to 2024 and beyond, and this label is everywhere, and it means absolutely nothing. Whether you're on Spotify, Apple Music, or an app, it just is a little warning label. It doesn't mean anything to anyone.
Right. And it's sad too, it's in your face everywhere all the time, and it's hard. There are people listening maybe and be like, well, you know what? It's art. It's okay. The body is art, and it needs to be shined, and highlighted, which maybe you've got an artistic mind, and maybe that's true. Yeah. I'm not one to say it's not, but where's the line then when it comes from art to sexually explicit, or X-rated rather?
Well said. And we don't normally think of horror movies as X-rated. We call them R-rated. But I was watching NBA basketball last week, and on TNT, my 7-year-old's in the room, and a super scary, dark, kind of like satanic commercial comes on for this horror movie, and my daughter is watching a preview. Yeah, there's no commercial, a commercial,
right?
And she's watching it, and it's super scary. And I look at her; she's scared. So no, is that X-rated? No, this is part of what we're dealing with. It's everywhere we turn, it's just what the crap is going on.
So here's the real question: should we care? I mean, the world's going this way anyway. Should we just throw our hands up and be like, well,
question. Why?
Whatever.
So I know you care. So let me ask you, should you care? And why do you care as an everyday dad? Why do you care? And why are you listening to an episode, or you're making it on G-rated kids and X-rated world? Do you care? Why do you care?
Right. For me personally, I think there's something about a child that is so innocent and pure and beautiful. And unfortunately, they lose that over time. Yeah. The world speeds it up, and it happens faster and faster. But if you could take that child and put them in an enclosed environment, I always like to look at how the Amish are doing everything, because they don't have tech.
We could all learn a lot from them.
They barely show their ankles. Okay, so they're still living back in the day. And it's just kind of a good comparison what the world will do if you're out and about versus what would happen if you're in a glass jar. But, I think there's this innocence to these children, these babies. They're so pure, they're so funny, and they're lovely. Right. And then, it goes away. Yeah, and for me, I want to keep that innocence, because there's something that's true, and it feels good about them. Now, when you think of X-rated, I think of inappropriate or lack of respect right? Like if you think of pornography, there's lack of respect. And like if you think of like biblical terms, you're supposed to, respect your husbands and love your wives. And when it comes to X-rated, there isn't that. There is
Yeah.
no care for any of that. And so if you want a human relationship to be true and have a great relationship and a great bond, you need to have some kind of respect for yourself and for others. And I think X-rated is the exact opposite. That's my thought.
I mean, holy moly, that was so well said. You just hit on so many beautiful points about humanism and love and morals and respecting the intimacy of certain acts and privileges and intimacy between people. That was so beautiful. And just protecting children, because we all understand that children are only children for a short amount of time, and they're going to become teenagers. They're going to become older. They're going to want to be exposed to things. And by the time our kids are
Right.
21, 22, they're going to be exposed to anything they want to. So why do we have to rush it? Why do we have to rush a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old into this world, which they're already going to get to? Why are we trying to rush them into this adult-like, world?
I think it's hard for us because it's like if we don't as parents, the world will. So we are having to speed up the process of introducing them to these things so that they can learn to respect it at a younger age
Yeah.
than if you don't.
Well said. That's one of the challenges of being a freaking adult. It's like we know that the world is so X-rated. We then have to teach them and speak about things earlier than we would prefer, because we know that if we
Right.
don't, then they're going to hear about it from all these other people, all these crazies out here. And now it's just hard either way. It's so hard.
Yeah. It's hard. And I throw out movie quotes all the time. I do love movies, but Hollywood's so bad with it. I mean, we wanted to go watch a movie. It was like the new Ghostbusters movie. It was going to be like so
One with,
fun
like,
and
Paul
cool.
Rudd,
And
isn't it?
we,
haven't
yeah,
seen
with
it.
Paul
Yeah.
Rudd. The first one was good and cute. And then the second one, they started talking about sex dungeons and stuff like this. I'm like, man, and I've got 10-year-olds, and would it be okay? Maybe, but would it not? Maybe. And so I had to just parent around that. I couldn't.
Yeah.
It just makes it harder for us as parents to navigate through everything.
Yeah, I think a devil's advocate would be like, you know what, Sean Jordan, you guys are living in the Stone Ages. It's a new world,
Right.
technology,
Right.
and why wait? Why try to hide your kids from the world or protect them? Instead, just the world is the world. Let them go to it. Let them go. Open up the gates and then talk to them about it while they're there. That's the devil's advocate. And I would say my angel's advocate rebuttal is no. My kids are going to have plenty of time with being uncensored in the world. And while they're in my home, and while they're children, and while they're 17 and under especially, I want to censor them. I want to take care of them. I want to protect them from things that they
Right.
can't protect themselves from.
The reality is, like, if you let them run free like that, and with everything that lives online stays online forever, they can make one mistake and it haunts them for the rest of their lives.
So true.
Right? So if you have that mindset, they could do something as trial and error, as we do, and then it's like, whoops, I went too far.
Yeah, man.
Now I can't get a job. Now I can't find a spouse. Now I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing you might love about this episode, everybody, is we're going to give you some great direction. We're going to give you some do's and don'ts on what to do, how to thrive with raising G-rated kids in an X-rated world. Plus, I'm happy to say that I've been teaching on this topic for a long time, but now I'm actually not just teaching on it; I'm living it out. I've got my kids are older now, right? So I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've not just seen or read about the intellectual knowledge, but I've actually lived this out. I have teenagers in my home, with my oldest being 19. And so we're going to give you some goals, some do's and don'ts. And one thing you're going to love about this is you probably will hear the children in Jordan's house in the background. His 3 kids are home for the summer. And so we're going to hear him yelling. And
it's loud.
Making noise. And it's going to be so fun. I heard him. I loved it. So,
oh, you did?
So here, how does this sound to you, Jordan?
Sorry about that,
here's
everybody.
our goal. What's the purpose? Let's set our minds straight. Here's a tool for our minds. Our goal is to realize, all right, we are never going to be perfect parents, and we are not raising perfect kids. And that's a somber truth to actually realize that you are going to make mistakes. You made mistakes as a kid. You made mistakes as a teenager. You're going to make mistakes as a parent. It's so hard to say this, but it's the truth. Your kids are going to make mistakes. Your kids are going to do things you don't want them to do. Your kids are going to do things that are challenging for you and make choices you don't agree with. Somber and true. But here's our goal. Our goal is, well, are no perfect kids or perfect parents. Let's teach about perfect ideals. Let's let's try to teach about good, perfect things that are lovely and good things. Let's raise the bar, even though we can't reach the bar. Let's talk about the bar and really raise it and cast a vision for this is a healthy choices, my children. Do you like that?
Yeah, I like that because first it sets us with the reality that like the decisions that they make aren't going to be perfect. So we can already go into like, okay, they're going to make mistakes, and then now we could think, how are we going to react to it? So now we could start thinking about how we're going to react to it. But I love that we have a goal set and like something we can do, and you're going to give us some tips here because it is so X-rated and it is hard and it is scary, and we just want to know how to do it.
When you're thinking about raising G-rated kids in X-rated world, think about the 5 C's. The five
Okay.
C's. C number one, we want to raise children with confidence, feeling confident about themselves, about their place in
Oh,
the
that's
world.
good.
Number two, C is character, raising kids who have high character. They care about their family, they care about their friends, they care about people who are like them, who are unlike them. The next C is conviction, raising kids of conviction, like morals. I know that this is right and this is wrong. I'm not afraid to have a stance, to stand up for myself, to stand up for somebody else, for stand up for what is
Yeah.
right. Raising the next C, the 5 C's, raising children of compassion. Compassion.
Oh, that's
They have
good.
compassion for others. I know that this person might have a hard home life. I know this person going
Right.
through a hard time. I have compassion for my own siblings. I have compassion for myself, for what I've done, for the poor choices that I've made. And the last C is raising children with competence, competence around their schools, around their sports, around their screens. Tough kids who are really to have grit and persevere and to be confident in today's crazy world. How do you feel about this? The 5 C's.
I love that. It's like to be a great, well-rounded human. You just summed it up in 5 C's. I mean, that's so cool that you're able to come up with that. But like, if we could teach our kids to develop all of these C's and then they reflect that in the real world, how many more people would learn that in the real
Yeah.
world? Because unfortunately, it's been the lack of that the last several decades, which is why our society's kind of falling apart right now. We used to have these things,
I
right?
I think I agree with you. The children, and there's actually research really even being done on that the children peaked, um, and then the introduction of the cell phone, you're seeing a lot of these 5 C's going downhill. And this is why I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to talk about this man who is trying to change the world. He wrote the book. I just put it in storage. His name is Jonathan Haidt. Please go follow him on social media. I mentioned him in the podcast. He wrote a book called The Anxious Generation. He's being on all the big talk shows. He's really talking about screens and what we need to do better as parents. And we're going to have a whole episode coming on about that. So 5 C's. And Jordan, I just want to give you a shout out. I think you're a man of the 5 C's. I love you because you've shown the 5 C's in your life and you're raising kids of the 5 C's. So
Oh man,
confidence,
you're the best.
character,
Thank you.
conviction,
I mean,
passion,
I'm learning from the
competence.
best, bro.
Yeah.
Learning from the best out there. Sean Donohue. Hey, you know what's funny? While you were talking about the 5 C's, I literally Googled like,
Yeah.
how to raise a G-rated kid or whatever in an
Uh-huh.
X-rated world. Well, AI gave me an answer.
Oh,
Artificial intelligence is now trying to
because
teach us this.
Google
Okay,
has
and they
indoctrinated
can't.
AI into their whole thing. So if you type
Correct.
it, the first thing. So tell me what. Tell me.
So 2 C's. They have 2 C's. Number one is open communication.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's one of your C's, communication, and then another one is be consistent.
Consistent.
Right, as like a parent.
Yeah.
Those are just the two that popped up. But they also say teach values, be patient, be positive. You kind of came up with those two, but I just thought it was funny. AI now.
AI.
We're going to AI.
No,
with
we
this
can't
stuff, man.
avoid
It's
it.
crazy.
We can't avoid it. It's just getting started. So, all right. So, how about some do's and don'ts? How to raise
Okay.
G-rated kids. And so, yeah. So essentially, what that means is, let me just cast another vision. Okay, how do we raise kids who are G-rated, PG-rated, even PG-13? They're making good decisions, healthy decisions.
Yeah.
With their bodies, with their minds, but they understand the world is out there, and there's a lot of grotesque stuff, a lot of adult stuff, dangerous stuff, drugs, alcohol, horror, dark, self-harm. That's kind of what we're talking about here, right? Did I feel like we cast
Yeah.
the vision? I think everyone's on the same page. Just that title kind of
Yeah.
sends the message, like this is what we're
We're on
doing.
the same page.
All right,
We're on the
so
same
I got
page.
5 do's. I got do's and don'ts. I wrote down 5 don'ts and then 7 do's. And if
Okay,
we're just
good.
having so much fun, if we need to, we'll kind of do like a part 1 and a part 2. But let's just see how far we get. All right. All
Okay.
right. I think you're gonna love. I think you're gonna love the first don't. So I'm gonna do the don'ts first. All right, Jordan. We were growing up as young people on the beaches of San Diego. You and I did not glorify safety very much. You know, we were out there
No, we didn't.
surfing, snowboarding, breaking bones, having fun. That's
Oh
like a
my
pretty
goodness.
typical teenage
Yeah.
male experience, right? You don't,
Right.
if you get hurt, oh, well, you just get hurt and you kind of move on.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Dude, I remember one time you told me to launch off of some monster jump. For some dumb reason, I listened to
Like
you. You're like, just hit it hard.
snowboard? Okay.
Snowboarding. And everyone going before me has not landed this thing. And for some reason, the jump was so big, I didn't even make it halfway across.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm 15 feet in the air, coming straight down on a flat surface,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I tweaked the heck out of my
yeah.
knee. And I'm
Yeah,
like, why would I do that?
Yeah, and that's part of the fun
Peer
of being
pressure.
young and is experiencing the thrilling of life. That's like why your
Yes.
teenagers want to act this way. Why does your 9-year-old? Because they enjoy that feeling of feeling thrilled. It's a great
Thrill.
feeling inside. I still feel it. You know, the reason why you might love going on a boat is because it's such a thrilling feeling going on a boat or a jet ski or being towed, right? And your kids
Right.
love this stuff. Now, this is interesting. I wasn't planning on doing this, but there's a big difference between going on a boat and being a boat captain. Because if you're a good
Right.
boat captain, Jordan, I think you know where I'm going with this. What are you
I
thinking
do.
about when you're a boat captain? When you're driving the
You're
boat?
thinking, do I have enough life vests for everybody? What if this happens? Is everybody safe? You're in control of their lives.
Yes,
If you're
you are.
riding a boat, like you're saying, you're just hanging out.
It's such a different psychology being a boat captain. It's very stressful. It's very scary.
Yeah.
A million things can go wrong, and it's all on you. It'll be your name in the paper if something happened.
Right.
And so I think that's what parenting is. You know, parenting is being a boat captain. It means you're just constantly looking out and seeing a million things that can go wrong. You're dealing with the fears. You're seeing dangers that aren't there that could be there. And you are realizing, oh my gosh, I have all these people. I'm responsible to keep them alive. And this is scary, but we're on a boat and we're supposed to have fun. And I'm supposed to like be cool and composed and like be a normal person right now and supposed to have a good time on a Saturday afternoon. That's parenting.
Right. That's a great analogy. That's so true. So how do we do it with such ease? You know, some of these boat captains, if you were to bring back to that analogy, there could be a hole in it and it's starting to sink and they're so cool. They're just like, no, we're good. We'll make it back. You don't even need to worry about that. You're like, oh, okay.
Here's the first don't I have is we cannot glorify safety as parents. Like, here's what I mean. Some of you are coming here and you're very scared of your child. You're scared of your child being hurt in an X-rated world. Child predator, kidnapped, having them do drugs.
Right.
And you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to go and they're going to tell me to be scared and they're going to tell me to protect my kids.
Right.
And I'm actually, of all the things I could be saying here on this podcast, the first thing I'm saying, the first thing of all the things is don't do it.
Right.
Don't go down that path. Do not glorify the God of safety. Do not realize, don't think like it's my job I have to protect these kids at all costs. What do you,
but the psychology of it is we do and we have to.
you know, I'm going
you're
there.
saying-
I'm going there, but
Don't do
let's
it,
say,
which is counterintuitive.
well, that's because good parents, they want to protect their kids, but let's just play
Right.
let's go the opposite of this. What type of parent would I be creating or coaching, or even what type of parent would I be, Jordan, if I would say, okay, everybody, here's your first step. Here's your first step. Safety at all costs. All costs. Everyone has to be safe. You, 17-year-old, you can't do that because it's not safe. Nope. Nope. You're not going to the prom. It's not safe. Tell me, I need to know who's your date. What's his middle name? Okay. Where do you go to middle school? What are his grades? What's his parents' life? What's his social security number? Has he ever had alcohol? How much alcohol? Has he ever stolen alcohol? Does he look at pornography? What kind of porn? Tell me about him. Tell me about his driving record. Like, this is, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, you're creating what's called a worry wart. A worry wart. I got people in my family. My grandpa's known for that. He'll be, yeah, that's what I am. He was so concerned with safety all the time. Still is. That's just who he is. I don't know why. But you're saying don't do that, because you're right, because then those parents are kind of annoying, and then that could spawn off on the kids, and then the kids will like deflect or run away from that potentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different like podcast, but a parent who's raised their children in a system of glorifying safety, like idolizing safety, like it's all about safety. What is that going to do to a child? It is potentially either A, going to create a worry word of a child who's afraid to take risks, who's afraid to jump off cliffs into water, who's afraid to go on the back of a boat, who's afraid to go on a hike, who's afraid to go out and try something new. Or it's going to create a child who's going to freaking rebel.
Right. Say, that's where I was going to go with that.
Of course, right? Of course they're going to probably rebel, aren't they?
So for us, don't glorify the safety. We can still be wise and talk about it. Like, yes, I'd love for you to do this, but just know this could be potentially dangerous because of this. Or should we not do that at all? Does that sound like good
advice? I mean, let's just even change the word from glorify to idolize. Like an idol is like something you worship, or like put safety is like number one. I have other things that should go number one. Do you think I'm being good at, is this good parent coaching?
No, I think this is great. I think a lot of folks weren't expecting this. I think this is be like, wait, what? Oh, okay. And it's making sense. So I think it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Let's go with number two. Number two, do's and don'ts. Don't number two. Glorify. This is going to be shocking to you, I think. I'm not trying to be shocking. I'm just trying to be helpful. Someone who's been there I'm in the front lines of this for a long freaking time. Seen a lot. I've heard it all. Number two, glorifying abstinence and sobriety. Now, I love abstinence.
Okay.
And I love sobriety, even though the definition of abstinence is not having sex until you're like in love or older or married. The actual definition of abstinence is the state of being away from a place or a person. It doesn't say anything about sex. That's the definition of abstinence. But here's what I found is that some parents, they just are preaching, don't touch that alcohol. You'll never touch alcohol until you're 21. Don't do it. Don't even think about it. If you drink alcohol, this is bad. Don't even think about going there. Don't have sex. Don't have sex. Don't. And they just idolize all these don'ts. And it doesn't work. It's not helpful. Glorifying
we know it hasn't worked.
Abstinence and sobriety.
I mean, that was a big thing, especially, with religious backgrounds. And you could go back to the Catholic Church, as abstinence was a really big tool in our society for the longest time. But as you always say, the pendulum swings. Yeah. And now it's interesting because in some schools, they're handing out condoms in middle school, right? And I'm not one to say that they shouldn't be doing that, especially if kids are experimenting at that age. It might be safer for them getting pregnant, but you can't glorify one without having rebellion, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to be, in this podcast, I'm going to be talking about the importance, about the beauty, about the goodness of talking about sobriety and teaching about sobriety and abstinence.
Sure.
But there's a fine line between glorifying it or using the word idolizing it versus teaching. Like, this is like, the world is not black and white, and you trying to teach your children that it's black and white and that you've got to really make sure you choose this or else is not going to be raising a G-rated kid in an X-rated world.
That's good. It's very good.
Okay, number three. Similar point.
Number three.
This one, I really like this point too. I've seen this happen so many times. I've heard this. So some parents have good intentions and they're trying to keep their kids safe, which is good. I want our kids to be safe. But what they do is they demonize people or they demonize their choices. Let me explain. Oh yeah, Uncle Joe. Oh, he ruined his life. Look at his life. He just ruined it because of alcohol. And look at him now. He's a big loser. You want to be like that? You want to be a loser? Look at that. Look at her on the streets. It's because she does drugs. If you do drugs, you're going to end up on the streets. That's what's going to happen. Look at those seniors. Look at those kids. What losers. All they do is vape. You want to be a loser like that? Those kids ruin their life because of vaping. See what parents do.
Okay, so I'm going to bring in a real world example for a second that's not as extreme as that. Okay. So I took my kids out to dinner, and my kids obviously are to that age where our friends are getting phones. We want a phone. They're 10, just FYI. Not old enough in my opinion. So, but some other friends have phones. So we were at dinner, and I noticed a family, there's 4 of them, parents and 2 kids, all of them on their phones, not even talking to each other out at dinner. So I said, hey guys, I just want you to look over here for a second. You see that? They're not even talking to each other. So I'm kind of highlighting it. And then just yesterday, we were at the pool and we were having fun. Kids playing. It's summertime. We're in the pool. We're playing Three Flies Up. It's so great. Three Flies Up. Everyone's laughing. And one of the kids, a little older, but he's got a phone. And he wasn't playing with anyone. He was outside the park or the pool, sitting on the bench. When he was swimming, but he's gone. And he was just on the phone. And I tell my son, son, look at. And I just showed him. He's like, yeah, why he's always on his phone? Why is it? So for me, I was doing it as like hey, this is just kind of one of my reasons for not wanting to give you guys this right now. Yeah. How do you feel about that? Am I doing
amazing
wrong?
No, that's amazing parenting, amazing emotion coaching. Don't you? And you feel that too, right? Thank you for sharing.
I do, but I hope I'm not glorifying someone's bad decisions in a negative way, right?
I think what parents do is that they will cross that line, and what they do when I say the verb demonize, they'll be like, look at that kid over there on their phone. Look at that family. Isn't that the worst family? You want to be a loser like that family? Like, we're not that family.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Or so you take it to the next step.
Just belittle. It's like they're evil. It's wrong. It's like they're gross. It's like, how dare you can't hang out with that girl. She's had sex with 3 guys, and that's the worst. Or look at him. Right. He has tattoos, or like they listen to that music. That's just gross. You can't hang out with those people. Like,
got it. Okay.
See that? Like,
that's good.
Like that black and
that's
white,
negative.
That demon.
Yes, I do.
Judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to get your kids to not become like that. In fact, if you do that, your kids are going to be like, you know what? I'm going to show you. F you. I'm going to go do exactly all the stuff you've been telling me not to do because I don't like you. I don't trust you. And I want to hurt you now. So I'm going to do all these things that you described as like demonize. I'm going to go do it. And I'm going to show you it's not bad because those are my friends.
That's good. Right.
That happens all the time.
Oh, you're right. We don't want to be those parents. These are great tips to not do. Okay, next one.
Also, we got to know our audience because the person who's listening to a podcast that's entitled Raising G-Rated Kids in Expedited Role, like, we are the ones who are susceptible, what's the word? Like, to doing these things.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're the ones open to it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we're the ones, like, we could end up crossing these lines. All right. Next don't is something you see a lot of online is a lot of parents and people on social media, they use scare tactics to create good kids. And they just try to scare kids like, hey, if you do this by this age, or look out, because if you go on Snapchat, then you're probably going to get kidnapped. And if you if you chat with anyone on Roblox, well, then it's probably an adult predator, and you're probably going to, be taken away by 2 weeks from now. They just go extreme with scare tactics.
These are extreme. So we can all understand why we don't want to be that parent. That's an easy one. Now, if you are that parent, we're sorry. We're not laughing at you. Try not to be that parent.
Yeah, you want to be like, look, most of the kids on Roblox, they are just kids. Like, I would guess like 99% of the people here that you're chatting with, they're good. But this is the problem, is that 1% are not. They're not good. And that's that 1% is why we're having this conversation, because chatting with people on Roblox, this is not safe. And it's my job to keep you safe. And see, we're just kind of thriving in the grays of all this.
Yes.
And the last don't would be, don't just be a passive parent. don't avoid this topic. All these things you're about to hear on these dudes, because we're going to get more X-rated as this podcast continues. You got to step into the tension. You've got to step into the tension and speak and teach and guide.
That's the
And you got
hardest
to have the
part for so
courage.
many of us. It's hard. I mean, it's awkward,
Okay.
right?
Why? Why is it hard? I agree with you.
It's uncomfortable.
Let's actually do this. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap
know?
up this episode right now with a couple of words, and then we'll do a part 2. But let's just do this. Let's give our parents that are listening a couple tips and a couple inspirational points. You go first. Why is it important to step in? I'm just putting Jordan on the spot here. We have no notes. To have the courage to step in to teach. Parents are teachers, and every home's a school. Why is it hard, and what are we going to do about it?
It's hard because we know we have to, or let's put it this way. We know we should, but sometimes we think it's so much easier to not have that awkward conversation with our kids. But the problem is when we don't, we've said this before, I'll say it again, the world will, and they will teach them in the wrong way.
Yes, they will.
Now, it's hard for us, and I don't know, I still think back to when my parents came to me to try to talk about it, and now it's uncomfortable thinking about it, but I'm trying to think, was I uncomfortable then?
Right.
And I don't even remember what age I was, probably 6th grade or something like that. And it was fine. It was a little uncomfortable, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I think we're also like scared that, when we're in the moment like that, it's hard for us to say the right things and what needs to be said.
Oh, been there, done that. So emotional. Yeah.
And so, like, we don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we need to have notes and be like, okay, guys, I'm ready for this conversation. I got my notes here. I want to say the right thing.
Yeah,
but then that's not real, right? They're not going to take you real. Like, you have to be real.
Partly why we're making
vulnerable.
this podcast, people are listening, is because they're getting ready for that realness. This is like the coaching before the game. This is the practice before the game. Here's a couple things to think about. Is in most schools now, they give sex ed to kids in the 5th grade. Why in the 5th grade? Why not the 7th grade? Why not the 9th? Why not the 3rd?
Well, I think they start, right? You're saying they're started. They talk about maybe body parts in the 5th grade?
In most states,
but like,
it's 5th grade.
But like to what extent, right? Like
sex
just
sex, penises, vaginas, AIDS, oral.
Like the whole thing in 5th grade is what you're saying?
Going on for decades, man. This is not new. So why?
I don't remember that in 5th grade. I remember it in 6th grade.
Well, it's 5th grade here in California. So let's just say 5th grade. I don't know what it is for your state. I'm not going to Google.
You might be right.
But here, why?
It's been a minute since I've been in school.
5th graders are not sexually active. Almost 100% are not. Well, because the psychologists that run the school districts in this curriculum know you've got to start teaching before they actually, before they start doing. You've got to start teaching before they start the temptations. So everyone, if you're enjoying this episode, I want to encourage you to send this to someone. Send this to your co-parent who you love and have them listen to this, and especially listen to the last couple of minutes, because we're going to try to inspire you. Parents are teachers in every home.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there an argument to say that the teaching earlier therefore leads to earlier exploitation or exploration of
I don't know.
sexual activity?
I don't know the answer to
I
that.
don't know either.
I don't know the answer to that.
But I mean, we've seen what abstinence can do, and it can make you run the other way.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if
that is a hot button topic that people had when they first started doing sex ed in the 5th grade, and now it's a question for every family has to decide on their own. At what age do we talk to my son about sexting? At what age do we talk to my daughter about pornography? If I talk to a daughter about pornography, isn't that weird? We already know she's not looking. Probably we're gonna ruin her innocence. Is she gonna start being afraid of other people if she's exposed by this? Right? There's no right or wrong answer for this. I'm sorry. There's no chart from the CDC or from pornohub.com telling you when to start talking to your kids about these things. It's just such a personal family thing. But here's what I want you to, here's the main thing I want you to do is you're the one right now. Jordan and I, before we hit record on this podcast, Jordan was talking about how he likes this little spot I have in my hair. He asked me if I dye it. I said, no, dog, I don't dye my hair. I don't know if he thought it was blonde.
It looks like he's got frosted tips.
Dude, that's not dyed, man. I'm 45 years old. It's white, man.
Mark McGrath over
Oh,
here.
yeah, right. Half dead. Mark McGrath, like zombie, like gray man. Here's the
Oh
truth
my
is that
goodness.
we have something our kids do not have. We have something our kids do not have, and that is wisdom. And it is our job to teach them wisdom, because if we do not teach them wisdom, how to be wise in an X-rated world, well, then I'm holding up my phone right now, then the people on this screen will, and we do not want them to teach our kids things. They do not have wisdom, and we do. So we've got to step into the courage, into the wisdom to speak up and to guide our children, because no one else will do it. It's not a school teacher's job. It's not a principal's job. It's not Kim Kardashian's job. It is our job.
That's good. Sometimes we don't think about that. We think, well, kids go off to school, they're getting the learning they need. When they come home, it's just it's us hanging out and getting together. But I think your quote is the best quote that we've ever, said on this podcast, and we've said it over and over and over again. And you can say it again if you want, because I don't even know if I have it memorized. But it's every home is it? What is it? A school.
Parents
every
are
parent is a
teachers.
teacher.
And
Yes,
every home
and that's
is
so
a
true.
school.
And we need to model. They're witnessing more than we're teaching. So we are teaching them by actually not even saying anything, just by living our lives, right?
Our kids are going to learn a
They're
lot of great
sponges.
things in schools, but they're not going to learn the 5 C's. We want to raise kids of confidence, character, conviction,
Yes.
compassion,
Yes.
and competence. And parents are teachers, and every home's a school, and it's our job to teach these kids these wonderful things, because the people on these screens are not going to teach it.
They're not. Okay, so as we leave this, we did a lot of don'ts. The big do is to kind of maybe for us to think about it, to like as parents maybe talk a little bit about when we want to have these conversations.
We're getting ready.
I've asked you for guidance
We got
before
7 do's.
with
We'll
my kids.
do part 2 of this episode, and we got 7 do's that Jordan and I are going to share with you for part 2 on another episode.
Okay, good. I can't wait for that.
I'm thankful for I'm thankful that I'm not alone, that I have my wife, that I have you, that I have resources out there that are helping me to raise good kids, wise kids in a hard world. And I'm thankful too that when my children go into this world and they make mistakes, they make bad choices, I'm thankful that they're going to be okay. And I'm going to walk through these things with them and not judge them. And we're going to get through these things as a family, because that's what family does. So I'm just thankful for resources and for family.
And I'm thankful for having, a community that is supportive, like even if I didn't, I feel like I would still have that viewpoint. So I'm thankful that I have this viewpoint of like, joy, love, help, and pureness, to where like I'm going out and trying to conquer this world with my kids and not doing so in fear, doing so with like hope. And I'm really grateful for that viewpoint. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why I have it, but I'm just thankful that I have it.